Hare Krishna devotees, today's shloka for the day is shloka number 32 of chapter 6. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Please recite after me. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Word for word meaning and translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Atma with his self aupamyena by comparison sarvatra everywhere samam equally pashyati sees yaha he who Arjuna O Arjuna sukham happiness va or yadi if va or dukkham distress saha such yogi a transcendentalist paramaha perfect mataha is considered. Translation: He is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness
in both their
both their
happiness
happiness
and their distress.
and
and
their
their
distress.
distress.
O Arjuna.
O
O
Arjuna.
Arjuna.
Mm. So the Lord is talking about a Paramahamsa here. This comparison is made in our scriptures. A Hamsa is a swan. If you mix milk with water and give it to a swan, it knows how to extract just the milk and leave the water behind. So similarly, Paramahamsa has this capacity to see only the Lord in everything and reject everything else, leave everything else behind. So this is what we've been reading in the last few shlokas of how this Paramahamsa sees the Lord in everything and everything in the Lord. And therefore, in that sense, there is equality. In the 5th chapter, the Lord gives us an example of such a Paramahamsa. And the shloka goes as follows. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So, a transcendentalist sees a Brahmana, a Gavi is a cow, Hastini is an elephant, then Shuni is a dog, and Shvapakecha is a dog eater. So this such kind of a Paramahamsa does not distinguish between these categories of living entities. He sees them all as equal. Now, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have an example of such a transcendentalist. This Shukadev Goswami was so detached that as soon as he came out of the womb, he simply walked out of the house. He was so detached from everything. So such a transcendentalist, because they go through this dualities, or they have experienced these dualities, they know that all the other jivatmas also experience these dualities. In that sense, they see everybody as equal, which means everybody is suffering. There is no exception in this universe. This entire universe, let alone our India or this earthly planet, every jivatma is suffering. So there was once a journalist who wanted to meet a yogi, and he travels all the way to the Himalayas to meet this perfected being. And he was quite impressed by what he saw. And he asked this yogi, if you have conquered all of this, why don't you come to the city and teach the city folk or the village folk how to accomplish what you have accomplished, the sense of equanimity, the sense of peace, etc. And that yogi responded to this journalist by saying, when a man is thirsty, he will come to the river. The river never goes to the man. But you see, in Vaishnava culture, we turn this philosophy on its head. Srila Prabhupada exemplified the Vaishnava emotion of being moved by other people's suffering, and therefore you see it as an emergency, and therefore you put yourself in all kinds of difficulties just to save others. That's a Paramahamsa. Someone who goes out knowing that others are suffering, and he will put himself through all kinds of difficulties to help others. Not wait for others to discover that they are in difficulty and then lead them to the river. The problem with Kali Yuga is that nobody even accepts that they are suffering. Everybody is just busy working, Everybody is just busy trying to make ends meet. Genuinely, people don't think they're suffering. They don't have time to even think about whether they're suffering or not. So how can you allow, people to wait to discover that they're suffering before you actually help them? That's a Paramahamsa. That's why there is a title called Parivraja Chakacharya. That actually literally means somebody who travels. A sannyasi who travels gets that title. There is a kshetra sannyas, but then generally sannyasis are meant to travel. Why do they travel? They travel to help and save other souls. So the yogis who have discovered the secret and keep it to themselves are considered to be kripana, misers. They don't want to share this because they don't feel that people are ready or deserving of the same thing that they have accomplished. So very rarely will you come across acharyas who actually go out of their way to rescue the fallen souls. And the preeminent example of that in Kali Yuga is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A Vaishnava is a paradukha dukhi. A Vaishnava cannot tolerate to see other people suffering. So that is the essence of this shloka. Is a Vaishnava, a Paramahamsa, sees that people are suffering. And an extension of this is that they go out of their way to help others spiritually. That's the essence of this shloka.